welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we're going to have a fun episode talking with Justin Erhart of Eager, Arizona. Justin owns Premium Hunts, and I follow Justin on Instagram. I've actually never met Justin, but I admire the animals that him and his guides harvest with their clients, so I thought it would be good to have Justin on to talk specifically Eastern Arizona, Unit 1, Unit 27, Unit 2. Justin, how you doing today?
Good. How you doing, Jay?
It's going to be good to have you on here. Justin, we are looking at the Arizona regulations for elk and antelope staring us right in the face here with a deadline February 13th. And I know, well, let me ask you a question here. You're from Eager, Arizona. Are you born and raised in that area?
Yeah, I was born and raised right here in Eager, Arizona.
And you own Premium Hunts. You have a website, and you guys, looks like you do a lot of elk hunting. You do a lot of big coos deer. You got a lot of big, beautiful coos deer, a lot of velvet coos, a lot of big hard-horned coos, and you guys are out in the mountains quite a bit. Is that something that you've just been doing since you were a little kid?
Yeah, I mean, growing up here, there's never much to do, so we just always spend our time out in the woods, and just a passion we've always had growing up.
When it comes to these animals and big game animals, is there one in particular, that as far as elk or sheep or deer or bears or lion or whatever, is there one that you would say, I tend to lean that that's kind of my favorite?
Just about any of them that I could ever get a tag for is going to be my favorite, but really like the elk and the coos deer.
Yeah. It's kind of like my wife says when people ask me that, she just rolls her eyes and she's like, whatever season it is, that's his favorite.
Yeah, always.
We're looking at the elk. We're going to talk specifically about elk today, and you do guiding in 1 and 27 and 2. Would you say that you're pretty much split, kind of between those units, and or are you way more in Unit 1 or way more in Unit 27, or is it pretty even across the board?
No, it's pretty even across the board. We spend a lot of time in all those units. They're all basically right out here, right out our back door, and it's pretty easy for us to put boots on the ground, even with a few hours left in the day. So we're lucky. We get to spend a lot of time out in these units.
Gotcha. What are you seeing right now as far as, we're sitting here a few days into January. What are conditions out there right now as far as, snowpack, moisture, drought? Where does it stack up to normal?
Well, it's way down from normal. I mean, it's been warm and dry. I mean, we've had very little moisture since basically the beginning of September. You can't even find snow on the north hillsides at 10,000 foot right now. It's very dry. Never seen it this bad before. Usually you can find snow up high, but it's been pretty bad. We're hoping that we get some later here in January and February, and give these bulls some spring moisture.
Yeah, Justin, do you feel like it's too late? Do you feel like it's too late even if we did get some spring moisture, if we get some February, if we get some March? I mean, is it too late or is it salvageable?
No, it's salvageable. We generally, ever since the fires in 2011, everywhere that it burned out heavily, which is basically the greater portions of a lot of the units, the feed has been phenomenal. I mean, you're looking at green grass everywhere, so just a little bit of moisture is going to kick that off, and it's going to create a lot of feed for the bulls and the deer and everything else. And
okay,
also,
so you go ahead.
I was just going to say that ever since the fire, man, a lot of these springs have came back, and there's a lot of groundwater everywhere over here.
from that standpoint, do you feel like the trees, got burned up, and so they're not drawing as much water out of the spring, so they're all of a sudden, the springs are coming back, or what can you attribute that to?
I think that has a lot to do with it. That, and then there was quite a bit of erosion that happened, so a lot of these drainages got washed out a little deeper, and I think it, take 5 or 6 feet of soil out, and it's going to expose more water in some of these places.
So in your mind, the Wallow Fire did some real good for your country up there?
Well, it did its pluses and minuses for sure. It definitely created a lot more feed and water, but with that came more visibility and other things, which have in return knocked down the age class of the animals.
So, in other words, the fires made it more visible, made it easier for hunters to spot bulls and locate bulls, whereas before it was lots of dark timber and they had lots of sanctuary?
Yep, correct. Yeah, before there's places, you wouldn't even be able to see the ground. You'd be looking at a mile of hillside, and you wouldn't see 1 square inch of the ground, and now you can see into every bit of it.
So the last few years, you guys have been smoking some big bulls on the late hunts. How much of that is because you can see, and then how much of that is, I think they did some reseeding and replanting, is it a function of the elk are actually, growing bigger antlers, or is it almost 100% the fact that, you can finally find them now?
Well, all the feed has definitely helped out a bunch with, growing bulls to their maximum potential. That's helped out huge, but actually being able to capitalize on the bulls, being able to see has been the biggest factor, because now you can look across these big canyons with, good optics and long-range rifles, and you can capitalize on a lot of these animals.
Do you feel like the hunting has opened up Unit 27 more than Unit 1, or would you say equally 27 and 1 have both been equal, opened up the same?
They've both been opened up pretty good. 27's just a lot more rougher, and it's got a lot more canyons that you can actually get on one side and tear apart the other side with good glass. So they've both probably been equally opened up. It's just 27 has more country that you can utilize it in.
And 27 before the fire was pretty thick. There wasn't a lot of open country at all. It was, pretty thick, wasn't it? Compared to 1 where there was cienagas and opens and stuff in Unit 1.
Yeah, before the fire in 27, I mean, you had very little, meadows or cienagas. There were a few, but nothing like Unit 1, to where a lot of the elk in 27 would actually migrate into the lower country under the rim. And ever since the fire, there's been so much feed up on top of the mountain that a lot of those elk are not migrating like they used to. And a lot of them are staying up on top in those big burned out canyons where, you can hunt them, you can see them, and you can hunt all day up there now.
You personally, if you had to choose either where you're going to hunt personally or where you're going to take clients, I mean, do you prefer 1 over 27 or 27 over 1, or is it a tie, or where does it stand as far as, whether it be quality of bulls, quality of experience, closer to your house, easier to get around, like what, is there one that you like a little better than the other, or they're the same?
No, I really like them both a lot. One determining factor with the client is like the client's physical capabilities. 27's a lot rougher, so you really need a client who can, get around and move in some rough country. Whereas the Unit 1, it's a lot more mild, and you don't have to be in such great shape or condition to to where you can go throughout the whole unit,
Speaking specifically about the archery hunt, in Unit 1 and comparing it to 27, I'm looking at the regs right now, and Unit 1, 2B, and 2C has 300 permits, and Unit 27 has 225, and that's just for the bull tags, and then the antlerless is 75 in Unit 1 and 100 in 27. From a pressure standpoint, does one unit feel like it gets more pressure than the other, or are they pretty much the same as far as what it feels like out there?
It mainly depends where you're hunting at. They both get pressure. You're usually going to run into a handful of people in either unit on the archery hunts. You're gonna run into people, but 27 offers a lot of more remote, rough country where you can get away from a lot of those people. Whereas the Unit 1, there's a lot of access, a lot of roads, and you're going to be seeing people on the roads. You're going to be seeing people in the hills. You're going to run into a lot more people.
I'm looking at the Go Hunt Insider is a sponsor of this podcast, and they just released their 2018 draw odds, or the odds that were for taking the 17 numbers and projecting them for 18. And it still looks like Unit 1 is 16 points, guaranteed for a non-resident is 16 points to draw that tag, whereas Unit 27 is one less than that at 15, and it's a 90% at 14. My question for you is, why do you think Unit 1 always takes a little bit more points? It seems like that's been that way for quite a while. Is it that much better, or why do you think it takes at least one more point in 1 than 27?
I don't think it's any better. I just think that it's a lot easier of a hunt. It's a lot easier to put eyes on bulls with cows and bulls alone. It's just it's a lot easier of a unit to navigate just because of all the access and mild terrain.
With that being said, with that easier access, speaking about the archery hunt specifically, if you've got someone that wants more of a quote-unquote wilderness, or wants more of a, kind of pack in for a few days on your back and set a spike camp and stuff, I mean, is 27 a much better candidate for that type of a hunt?
Yeah, definitely. 27, there's big chunks in Unit 27 where you can go miles and miles and miles and not see a road or a person. And if you've got somebody that, has the physical capabilities to do something like that, it's a good thing to do. Whereas to Unit 1, if you try to do that, a lot of the times you're just going to be walking over roads or still bumping.
The further you get from one road, you get closer to another road type of thing?
Yep, exactly. And don't get me wrong, the hunting's still great, but there are a lot of roads in Unit 1.
What have you seen, growing up there, getting to see it before the Wallow Fire, both units, and then getting to see it right after the Wallow Fire? It seems like the unit, exploded as far as, it seemed like with some really good bulls. You guys were a part of some really big bulls that were harvested for governors or raffle tags and what have you. And, have you seen an overall decline in giant bulls in both units, or is one still, one unit over another still kind of holding its own and there's still a few giants, or is the overall, upper end quality coming way off the top?
Well, those first 3 years after the fire, 2012, 13, and 14, those were phenomenal years. Never seen anything like it. Probably won't ever see anything like it again. We had bulls with all the age class they needed, and then when they got hit with all that feed, they just skyrocketed. And since then, yeah, it's gone back downhill, and I'd like to think now we're probably back at the stages for quality where we were probably pre-fire. It feels a lot worse because we saw those 3 years right after the Wallow Fire where it was phenomenal. But I think we're probably back down to where we were, pre-fire for quality.
Let's speak about Unit 1 specifically here for this question. Unit 1 is paired up with 2B and 2C. How much, in your opinion, of those 300 archery tags, how much of those 300 tags are in Unit 1 and how many are in the 2B and 2C? I'm trying to get a feel for, does 2B and 2C get looked at very little, or does it get quite a bit of pressure as well?
No, when they're paired up with Unit 1, I'm going to say 98% of the people are going to be in Unit 1. Just because there's higher densities of elk in Unit 1 versus 2B and 2C.
And 2B, 2C is probably a few locals and stuff know where bulls hang and such, and but it's not something where someone would go, hey, I'm just going to hunt 2B and 2C. That in your mind, that would probably be kind of a mistake, as many elk and stuff and good places to go as there is in Unit 1.
Yeah, definitely would be a mistake unless you had something pre-scouted and you knew all the little pockets, because they're real pockety in 2B and 2C. So you can always find a giant out there, but you could go a couple days without seeing an elk.
And then so 1, 2B, 2C, most of the 98% of the pressure goes in Unit 1. Is Unit 1 one of those units that, or 1, 2B, 2C, is that one of those places where you see during that archery hunt quite a bit of pressure, say the first 3 days of the season, and then kind of during the middle of the week, half the people go home? Or do you find it, as Unit 1, 2B, 2C, as, people are there for the entire 14 days?
Every year it seems like more and more people are sticking around for the duration of the hunt. I mean, you can notice a little bit of drop-off in pressure, but it's not much.
From a bugling standpoint, would you say the bulls bugle better in the 1, 2B, 2C as opposed to 27? Or would you say the opposite, or would you say they're pretty much the same?
They're pretty much the same. It just all depends on what area you're going to hit what day, I personally guided a guy in 27 this year on the archery hunt, and it was phenomenal. It was rut action like I've never seen before, but we had a great moon phase. We had the later dates. We did have some windy days and stuff, but it was a really, really good hunt.
And quality? Did you find the quality that you were looking for?
Yeah, quality was good. We had a lot of really nice bulls that we were after. Had a lot of really close calls, some missed shots and whatnot, and we ended up sealing the deal on day 12. But it was a really good hunt, a lot of action.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about. I'm noticing here that there's a late archery hunt. Let me click over here. There's a late archery hunt, it looks like, in both units. Talk a little bit about that. How, as far as late archery, how good hunts are they? What can people expect?
They're both really good hunts. You just kind of got to go in with realistic expectations. You got to know what you're in for. This year would have been a great year to sit in water, as dry and warm as it was, or at least hunting near water. Glassing bulls coming and going from it. But realistically, if you could let some arrows go at some 320 to 350 class bulls, you'd be doing really good on that hunt. But opportunities are there.
Opportunities are there. Yeah, conversely, with 1 and 27 during the regular archery hunt during September. Take each unit, the 1 and then 27. What are realistic expectations as far as, what are guys going to be seeing every day and what types of bulls? Most people that draw an Arizona tag think they're going to see, 370, 380 bulls every day, and they want to shoot a 400. What is the actual, boots on the ground? What would you say is realistic of, you see this type of bull every single day, and you see this type of bull, every handful of days, and maybe throughout the whole hunt you'll see one bull like in this caliber. What are we looking at there in 1 and 27 for that early archery?
On the early archery hunt, I'm going to say realistically your average bull you're going to be looking at is probably around a 310 bull. But that's not the upper class there, but that's mostly what you're going to be looking at. You're going to be probably pursuing some of those herd bulls that are going to be in that 330 to 370 range, and then you'll occasionally get your bomber in each area. But realistically, if a guy came out on those hunts and had expectations of hunting for a 340 to 360 class bull, that would be a realistic expectation. But he better be ready to put boots on the ground and hunt hard, because they don't come easy.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about the early, whether it be muzzleloader or firearms, and those hunts. I'm scrolling through the regs. It looks like the muzzleloader hunt this year is in 1, 2B, 2C. There's 40 tags. And then it must be early rifle. Let me pan up here.
Yeah, it's rifle in 27.
Rifle in 27. So you talked about archery expectations, and then, to get these muzzleloader and get these early rifle tags, people got non-residents, 20, 21, 22, 23. I mean, they wait forever to get these tags, and I've seen it so much over, 20 years of doing this, that there's the expectation that I've waited 20-some years. I'm shooting a giant. What is really the expectation for those firearm seasons? Because they've just been chased around for 2 weeks by everybody and their brother with a stick and string.
It's all about what somebody wants. If they come out with realistic expectations, I think, a 350 plus bull is a good expectation. But with that being said, you can always hunt for a 375 or bigger, and they're there, but they don't come easy. They're always hard to come by. They're few and far between, but they are there. There's always a few floating around. But
do you feel like you have a better chance? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, you get these guys that come out and they say, I want a 380 bull, and then they're ready to kill the first 340 bull they see, and you tell them that bull's only 340, and they say, well, that's bigger than the 350 bull at my house. And that's when you just got to tell them, well, you don't have a 350 bull at your house then.
Change the measuring stick a little bit.
Yeah, you'll get that, but it's if you hunt hard and you're willing to pass some of those 340, 350 type of bulls, you'll probably get a crack at one of those 370 plus bulls, but they're not going to be around every tree like these people expect after, waiting 20 plus years for a tag.
In your mind, is there a better hunt, whether it be muzzleloader or early rifle, as far as, year in and year out? Does one out hunt 27 on that particular hunt, or are they equal as far as, good hunts and quality and such?
I think Unit 1 probably has been putting out a little bit better bulls on the rifle hunt, just because of the terrain and everything that allows for these, longer rifle shots in some of these more mild areas, big meadows and, mild canyons and whatnot. You can cover a lot more ground within the unit, but if you do a lot of pre-scouting and stuff in 27, they're there. It's just a lot harder to find them and dig them up because you got to really put a lot of boot leather on the ground.
When you, I kind of asked you about bugling and such, and you, if I remember right, you said they're pretty similar as far as bugling. Would you say when the rut is really, really intense, because in 27 you can kind of get away from people, can it actually be a more enjoyable hunt if you just happen to be in the right spot? I mean, just like you said, you had a great archery hunt. I mean, can you envision, just from a getting away from people standpoint, if you hit the rut just right, I mean, is there a chance 27 could be quite a bit better than one just from a people standpoint?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can get away in 27 to where you're not worried about somebody coming in behind you or somebody, beating you to a bull that's screaming. It is a lot better from that standpoint because you can take your time. You don't have to push issues. You can kind of just sit back and choose your battles, So it does make for a more enjoyable hunt when you're not having to foot race somebody for a bugle.
Unit 27, I've never hunted it at all. But I've heard over the years that it can be a little finicky with the bugling. In your opinion, is that hearsay and not true, or does it have its moments where it is a little more finicky than one and they kind of clam up or they just don't bugle quite as well? Or is that not, do you disagree with that?
I disagree with it. I don't think they're bugling any less. I just think that, once a lot of the elk in 27 get pressured, they get bumped back into some rough, nasty country. And once they get back in there, there's very few people that are going to pressure them. And if there's still people looking back in those original spots where they got pressured out of, they're going to think that the bulls are clammed up and they're not talking and so on and so forth. But I've always just, if you just keep your boots on the ground and keep going, you're going to find them and they're going to be doing the normal elk routine.
Yeah. So moving on to the late hunts in 1, 2B2C, and 27, it looks like there's 375 tags in Unit 1 with a start date of November 30th through December 6th. And then the same season, November 30th to December 6th is 27. There's 460 tags. Seems like that Unit 1 number is down just a little bit. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it seems like those tags have come down a bit, but it seems like the 27 tags have gone up. Tell me if I'm wrong or right, or what the trend is going there.
Yeah, I think 27 has maintained that 460 for the last couple of years. I know last year, I believe Unit 1 had 325 rifle tags in it, so it's actually up 50.
Okay.
And that's going to put a pretty big impact on the, overall quality of the hunt. And, there's already been a decent amount of pressure in Unit 1 with the 325, and now an extra 50. It's going to make for a more pressured hunt for sure.
Do you think with the added tags that the hunt quality, just having that many more people around, the hunt quality will decline and the success will go down? Or do you think the success will actually stay the same and they're actually going to kill more bulls? You know what I mean? I think sometimes they add more tags, but they never kill more, but it makes it a worse hunt. I don't know what's better, whether to keep it low and have a really good success rate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think more bulls are definitely going to get killed, and it's going to make for definitely a more competitive hunt because you're going to have 50 more people in the field, but more bulls are definitely going to die. I mean, with the technology nowadays with the optics and long-range rifles, there's going to be some more bulls that are going to get harvested for sure. And I'd really like to see, the Game and Fish start, pick 1 or 2 units out of each region and, manage them for a true trophy potential, not just a 6x, but, a bull with some bigger age class.
In other words, take a unit 1 and back the late hunts way off and make one their one, that's the unit in that region that they're going to, or 27, just pick one of them and try and, limit the tags and see, because would you agree that the habitat could, Arizona in those units could produce some absolute monster bulls, probably rivaling most or all reservations if they would just lower the numbers of tags. Wouldn't it be neat to just have one unit that's just like the holy grail of elk hunting? And I think 1 or 27 right now, over the next 10 years, if they did that, could be that best unit in the world.
Yeah, definitely. We unit 1, you're bordering the Fort Apache. 27, you're bordering the San Carlos Apache. Both units have the genetics and all the feed there is to produce those bulls. It doesn't matter if they have the best genetics and the best food in the world. If they only make it to age 4, they're never going to hit their true potential. And I'd love to see them, pick 1 or 2 units out of each region and do away with the opportunity and just, manage it for trophy potential. You gotta have some balance between opportunity and trophy hunters. There's definitely both in this sport. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a little bit of an off-the-wall question. I'm a bit of a turkey nut, and what I've hunted Unit 1 for turkey a little bit, but from what I heard after the fire, the turkey numbers in both units just absolutely exploded. Of course, the tags did too, but how are the turkey populations? Are you seeing more than ever, or is it up or down, or what's the trend right now?
I definitely see more than normal, or more than I did pre-fire. But to be honest with you, Jay, I don't do much with the turkey, so I couldn't tell you much more than that. But I do run into more when I'm out and about.
They're like rabbits. Just don't even pay attention to them.
Yeah, pretty much. But their dinks are more around.
From a bear hunting perspective, and I know we're getting off topic, but from a bear hunting perspective, do you see just as many bears in 1 as you do in 27, or is one or the other of those units, kind of a better bear unit?
No, we see a handful of bears in both units. 27 probably more, but that's mainly because there's more rough country that you can have a lot more optics in where the bears are at. There's a lot more oaks and stuff in 27, so they're going to be on the acorns and everything like that.
27 has quite a bit more diverse, even lower country, so to speak, pinyon, juniper, oaky basins, and some of that stuff, doesn't it, as well as, compared to Unit 1? Unit 1 has major diversity, but 27 even rolls off even more, doesn't it?
Yeah, 27, you can hunt anywhere from 9,500 feet to, 4,500 feet. So you can be down in the cactus or up in the fir and spruce. Yeah.
Do you get into the sheep, the Rocky Mountain Bighorns, much in those units? And I know we're not in the Desert Bighorn drawing area, but while I've got you, I just figured I'd chat and see what your thoughts are on the, quality of the herds and what have you there in those areas.
The herds are doing good. We see sheep pretty frequent, and there's some really nice rams in a lot of these areas. I know that the Game and Fish is still been transplanting, big numbers of sheep into Unit 1 and 27 both, and even right there on the border of the Black River. So the sheep numbers are definitely coming up.
Want to bounce back to the late rifle hunts there in 27 and 1, and year in and year out on the late rifle hunt, which unit do you think year in and year out would you have the opportunity to shoot the biggest bull? If someone were to hire your guide service, which late hunt, in your opinion, could you shoot the biggest bull year in and year out?
Unit 27, hands down.
on the late hunt?
On the late rifle hunt, Unit 27, hands down.
Is that from a migration standpoint?
No, it just seems like there's a lot more, I guess, a lot more bull country in 27 than there is in Unit 1. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're going to have really good bulls in Unit 1 and have a really good hunt over there, but 27 has repeatedly, for us, been hands down a lot better of a late rifle hunt than Unit 1.
Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. Looks like they give quite a bit of antlerless tags kind of throughout the whole year, and both, looks like Unit 1, they hit it quite a bit with the antlerless, hammering those cows pretty good, huh?
Yeah, they seem to hammer them pretty good in both units.
Do you feel like the elk numbers, I mean, having grown up there, do you feel like the elk numbers are just fine where they're at, or, I mean, do you see the need to be killing, keeping the elk numbers down a little bit, or would you rather see them lift everything, raise lower all numbers, bull numbers, cow numbers, everything, and do you think we have a bigger whole carrying capacity than what they're managing for?
I definitely think we could afford to put a lot more elk in these units. I mean, there's all the feed and water that's needed. I mean, all the habitats here. It's just the numbers aren't here. I mean, we have a lot of elk for sure, but we could hold probably half as much again.
Gotcha. It's probably hard for you growing up there and seeing it, go. I know some of my buddies over there in 3C and watching this rodeo Chetasky fire, and on the rodeo Chetasky fire, right at the beginning, they really limited the hunts. I want to say maybe even they didn't even have it the very next year, or they was limited numbers, and man, the quality just jumped up. I mean, it was incredible, and then they got after the numbers pretty good and kept raising it, and it seemed like the quality kind of really came down there. Some of the peak years were 2, 3, 4 years after that fire was just insane, and I think Unit 1's basically kind of gone, 1 and 27 basically gone through the same thing, have they not?
Yeah, that's basically exactly what it has gone on here. I mean, those first 3 years after the fire, 2012, 13, and 14, they were phenomenal. And now our overall quality, I think, has gone back down to kind of where we were at pre-fire. So we still have good quality, but it's not like those glory years. I mean, those 3 years after the fire, you would hardly even look at a 350 class bull. It's hard to say, but there were so many big bulls those 3 years. It was incredible. I mean, they've gone from all those bulls with that age class, and then they had 2 years of that wheat that they'd seeded, and it was a phenomenal year.
I want to ask you, I'm looking at your Instagram account, and looks like you guys had a pretty good late Coues deer season. Talk about your late Coues deer hunts. I would assume most of those are in 27. How is the Coues deer hunting in 27? And, is it pretty much the same as it's always been, or is it getting better and better, or where are we at on that?
27's got so much country that you can get back and get away from a lot of pressure in, so it's really, really good. I mean, I wouldn't say it's any better or any worse. A lot of that country did take fire, even in that lower portion of the unit, and that's definitely helped with the glassable aspect, but the overall quality has been good. I would say it's probably the same, but you definitely got to be ready to hunt hard for a quality animal.
I'm also looking here on your Instagram. You guys have been whacking some big mule deer bucks. These don't look like Kaibab bucks. These look like up there in your country, in that 127 country. Has your mule deer really bounced back?
Our numbers for our mule deer have gone up noticeably. Quality has been great, but this past year they did up the tags in Unit 1 by 50, and definitely kind of impacted the overall quality of the hunt. I mean, we still were able to kill some really nice deer this year, even with the additional permits, but it seems like everything since the fire has really gone up in quality if they're allowed to get to the age class, you know.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like the fire specifically, when we're talking about mule deer, have the numbers been, have they been increasing because it's been opened up, or were there always that many deer when it was thick you just couldn't see them? Or I mean, do you think the fire has really raised the numbers?
You know, I think it has raised the numbers. I don't think it's raised them a ton, but it definitely has. I mean, before the fire, you know, you'd see a doe with a fawn, or you know, you'd see 5 does and there'd be 3 fawns, or so on and so forth. But now it seems like every doe you see's got twins. So the numbers have definitely come up. You see a lot more deer, and it's not that it's just open, because it kind of steadily has getting better and better and better for numbers every year, but it definitely has helped the quality as well, because there's a lot more browse on the ground, and there's a lot more food that the deer like.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. Pretty neat place to live, isn't it, man?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So pretty dang lucky to be able to walk out my back door and be up in the woods in a couple minutes.
Are you an outfitter full-time, or do you have a day job as well?
No, in the off-season I do a little construction here and there.
Gotcha. And you also do some hunts in New Mexico as well, right?
Yeah, we're basically right here on the border, so we kind of get best of both worlds between Arizona and New Mexico.
When New Mexico draw comes out, we'll have to call and chat about New Mexico as well. It's been awesome having you on, having you share your knowledge about these units. I know there's people specifically interested in 1 and 27, and I know you've been able to shed some really good light. I want to encourage the listeners to follow Justin and his guides at Premium Hunts on Instagram. That's premium_hunts. And then your website also, Justin, is premiumhunts.com. And is there anything else that you want to tell the listeners? And if they're interested in 1 or 27, you want them to give you a call or an email, or just go to the website and direct it from there? Or what would you like?
Yeah, if anybody wants to talk about either of those units, they can, message us on Facebook, Instagram, or go to our webpage and shoot us an email, or our phone numbers are all listed on the webpage as well, so they can get contact with us anyway.
I'll also list them in the show notes of this podcast, and it's great to talk to you, man. Just been admiring your work for years here, and I thought I'd reach out and get you on the podcast, and I'm glad I was able to make it work. I feel like you brought some really good tidbits of information here about these units. So Happy New Year to you. What do you got going right now? Are you chasing rutting deer, or are you kind of taking it easy after a long season?
No, we just got done with the coos hunt, so now we're ready to kick back for a little bit, and then head to do a little bit of bow hunting here in the next week or so.
Good. So are you starting to see deer, as dry as it is, are you starting to see deer wanting to think about rutting around, or is it still about a week out?
No, I think it's about a week out before it really kicks in gear, but they're definitely out roaming around and doing their thing. You're still catching coos deer running scrape lines, and muleys just drifting through, but any day now it should click.
Now, will the mule deer be rutting kind of simultaneously with the coos, or are they usually a little bit earlier?
I think they're about the same time. I mean, you'll see them come in and out. One day it'll be hot on coos, one day it'll be hot on mule deer, but it's basically the same time. Good stuff.
Well, man, thanks so much. definitely go check out Justin's Instagram page. It's pretty awesome. Let's shoot some giant animals. We got some killer trail camera pictures and stuff too. So Justin, thanks for sharing with us, and I'll look forward to having you on again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jay. Have a good one. Happy New Year.
Okay. Happy New Year. Take care.
Bye.